Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Policy Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. We have all board members available for this policy meeting, and I would like to begin by calling this policy meeting to order. And we'll have approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, next we have approval of the open session minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. If everyone's good with that, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the open session minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. The first policy we have for second review, the only one we have, is 4-13 school assignment.
Yes, good morning. School assignment 4-13 was tabled at the last meeting because I had received some input from our district AD pretty close to the timing of the meeting. So I have added some language that was recommended by Mr. Garner, and then the administrative guidelines are also attached, which have some similar recommendations to kind of conform those together and in discussions with our district AD. And I can review any particular pieces of that. It was just kind of clarifying athletic eligibility, and the one change that we did make was dealing especially with choice transfers and employee children transfers about eligibility for immediate eligibility, to address anything where people are choosing using the choice process to change for athletic reasons. And this would give ninth graders, you would not be automatically eligible. The one exception would be is for a student who is an employee where the district initiates the transfer to another location of the employee. For example, a teacher from Weddington is transferred to Monroe, and then they apply for a transfer to take their child to that cluster with them. So when it's a transfer by the district, it allows the child to go with their parents, still be eligible.
But otherwise, they would be ineligible for 365 days. Okay.
Correct. Staff would ask that this go for approval at the May meeting, since it's already been for review once.
But
Okay.
these are new changes, right? So do we have to start over, or what do we do?
You do not have to start over, because that's the purpose of having it go to policy a second time, to allow for changes.
Okay.
And then, but it's up to the board. If the board wanted to pull it off of consent agenda, they could, but this would allow it to go forward since it's already been reviewed once. We anticipate there will be changes in between, which is why you do a second review.
Okay, so it took care of all the issues that we've talked about before with respect to transfers and things of that sort.
I think it has.
Okay.
Are there any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, I will accept a motion to take back to the full board for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, very good. Okay, the next item we have is for first review, professional and staff development. This is a proposed new policy.
Yes, this policy, we receive, when the General Assembly makes changes that address policy, we receive something from the School of Government, and this was a policy that they had a similar policy, but there were some changes due to some recent action in the State Board of Education that required them to do some changes. And as I looked at it, I thought this would be something that would be helpful for us. It's a general policy that addresses staff development for all employees. We do have a policy which addresses situations when staff have to put on growth plans and the professional development that's attached to that process. but this is more generalized. It ensures that staff understand they need to get prior approval prior to sign up for any training, especially training out of state and training that's going to cost money for the district. And it just is, it sets forth the desire that we keep our staff professionally trained and up on their skills, but also ensures that we have some safeguards in place when that's happening. And the recommendation would be that this go to the board for first review at the May meeting.
And we're going to have a reference in there, a cross-reference to the policy about growth and improvement, correct? Okay.
Correct.
The only other thing is the second paragraph of A on the first page. Maybe I'm just not reading it right, but I don't know. It says on shall include. Is the on not supposed to be there?
Yes, sorry, that's a typo.
Michelle, the only question I had in the very last paragraph, it says that they should obtain prior approval for anything outside North Carolina. Should that just be, what about if they were getting something inside North Carolina?
Could that be out of district or should it be out of state?
You're on mute.
Michelle, I think you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep my dogs at bay. The first sentence in that paragraph does talk about being approved in advance. I just added that other one just to reinforce, especially out of state, but I could change it to out of district. You know, we've tried to really cut down on out of state because we have so many opportunities within state for training that unless it's something unique out of state, out of county is hard because the opportunities in the state are much more obviously broad. And for some groups of employees, myself, for example, there isn't things in district. Everything I would have would be statewide for the most part on my subject. Obviously, there's certain things I can do that are law related, but not
I
school.
think that it should be for everything. So
Yeah.
the first sentence, professional development and training opportunities must be approved in advance. And I agree with whoever brought it up. I don't like the second to last sentence because it has to be no matter what.
I'll remove that one.
Okay, any other comments or suggestions? Okay, then I will move to policy 3-5, a drug-free workplace.
Do you want to do them one by one for a motion or all at the end?
We traditionally do it all together, so I just
Okay.
assumed we would do it that way. Okay.
Okay, there were some changes in federal law, particularly related to CDL holders. So we have made those changes consistent with the law in this policy. I've also attached the administrative guidelines for review, even though there are no changes in that. That's just based on a prior request of this committee to have those guidelines in case you want to look at them.
And
So-
we reviewed this drug-free workplace recently, correct?
We did. There's just been some recent changes that have come out with the CDL holders, so we want
Right.
to confirm. And it's related to not having alcohol within 8 hours and all those things, just to clarify it.
I agree with that. I just wanted to put out there that we had looked at a lot of it in January, so, okay.
Correct. Thank you. And we would ask this go for review at the next meeting.
If there aren't any other questions or comments, we will move to policy 4-5, immunizations and health requirements for school admission.
Okay, this policy is due to a change in state law, which requires an additional booster prior for certain ages. So we just wanted to clarify and have that in there and make sure that we're consistent.
Okay. We will now move to policy 5-8, parent involvement.
Okay, the changes in this policy address some changes in federal law and federal regulations. And I'm glad to discuss any of the concerns if you have any about that.
I do not have any. Board members?
No.
Okay, that brings us to policy for remote participation in board meetings.
Yeah, this one is back before you all, and I left it in red, thanks to Katie being smarter than I am, because we, at the last meeting, if you remember, it was our first time, and it was gonna be our first remote meeting after that. And so this was to go back through it, make sure that the meeting had gone successfully, there weren't any changes, things that we learned, lessons learned to fix it, and then we could fast track it again if the board so chooses. But this was just to be a regroup to make sure everything worked out properly the way we wanted it and the way the board wanted it.
I think for the most part, our first board meeting technically did go well with that. I just want to point out that remote participation cannot be used solely for a board member's convenience or to avoid a particular meeting so that they don't have to vote on something. But this is not a convenience for any board member to work around a family issue or a job issue. It's for a crisis such as COVID-19. They will be limited to 3 times per year based upon, communicating with the board chair or the committee chair. On the last page, I do want to clean up D, electronic board meetings. So we did have a little bit, I think the only glitch we had in our last meeting was around public comments. And, just the last time the only meeting we've had so far, the Board of Education, all 9 members rely on everything being posted publicly for our review and preparation prior to the meeting. At our last meeting, we did not know that there had been any public comments received by staff. So I think going forward, I would like to recommend that as staff, I believe that's Donna Malarkey and Michelle Morris, there's an email that the public can send in their public comments. And I would like to recommend that as soon as staff receives those emails, to post them on board docs, viewable to the full board prior to the meeting, and viewable to the public for anyone that wants to hear comments that came in from the public.
I can add language at the end of that paragraph, which says any public comments received will be immediately placed in board docs, or placed in the board materials in the event we change the format at some point in the future.
I guess the next part of that is, do we have to have a reading of it if we put it in board docs? Or
My first thought is they absolutely have to be uploaded to board docs, so that
I agree with that completely.
so that absolutely has to be done going forward. And my first recommendation, and I absolutely want to hear from the rest of the committee, before I want us to have a discussion before we take it to the full board. But my first recommendation would be that that we make these public, not only to the board, but to everyone, and that when the board chair gets to that agenda item, the board chair can acknowledge the name, where they're from, and the topic that they sent in, and that the board chair would just say those 3 things, and invite the public to view those, just say the name, where they're from, the topic, and move on. And then it's up to the public, you know, for anyone who wants to go read that statement. And in my personal opinion, I think that's above and beyond what we've ever done, because we've never posted a transcript of what was said during public comments. And I'll just turn it over to the other board members.
Let's all agree with that. The only thing I would like to add, do we have a cutoff when we cut off public comments coming in?
Absolutely, and that's why that was the glitch last time, is that the board and the board chair did not know we had received public comments, and so I didn't even have an opportunity to read our policy and our disclaimer on the 3 minutes versus 5 minutes, and what we will hear and what we won't hear. So
But do we give the public a time when they have to have those comments in? I mean, for our meetings that,
Yeah, our general meet, you know, in a live setting, obviously people can sign up at the meeting. Given this, it would be great if we had since they're going to be uploaded into the board meeting materials, if we could have 24 hours in advance or something like that, so that we know there won't be any sort of issue with last minute notification.
that will give you plenty of time to upload it.
I would agree with that recommendation of 24 hours so that staff has an opportunity to upload it, and then the board has an opportunity to preview it, and then the chair has an opportunity to know if we have public comments or not.
And will we respond to those public comments?
We've never responded to public comments.
It's our policy not to.
Now, Mrs. Sturdivant, if you have a thought, I mean, I'm happy to hear, you know, what you have, but traditionally the board hears public comments, but we do not engage in public comments. What are your thoughts?
So if the public comment consists of a question, do we not answer that question?
We've never answered it before, except in at the end of the meeting. We do have board comments, and then the superintendent has their comments. And I know that Dr. Houlihan in the past, if there has been a public comment, he will attempt to address it in his comments. And then we can address it at the end of the meeting in board comments.
Okay.
We also, as a reminder, the chair also in the script acknowledges the key cabinet members that are in the audience that are there to follow up and to provide assistance. And so that process can still continue. Even if we receive board comments, I can certainly direct staff to follow up with those individuals following the meeting. That's typically how we handle it on a face-to-face. And I think we can do the same thing in a remote capacity.
Thank you.
Any other recommendations out there? You know, I believe it would be great to post what is sent in. We've never done that before in our minutes or whatever. Or, you know, is there any other suggestion on how to handle public comments? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So
One point of clarification I want to provide and make sure that the board is comfortable with this. I believe, so the generic email address, I believe it's like, I don't know what it says, Michelle, but it's like UCPS board comments at ucps.k12, whatever that is. I think Mr. Parker had set up a rule that as soon as anyone submits a comment to that email inbox, that is automatically forwarded to all 9 board members.
That's fantastic.
And so you would get that anytime that the comment is submitted. And then I think Michelle or Donna would then also, in addition, move those to board docs for the full board again and public facing. So you would have it in multiple different venues, if that makes sense.
I think that would be great that the board is alerted, because when we get notification on Friday and we're preparing over the weekend, you know, we may go into Friday or Saturday thinking there are no public comments, and then by Monday, there could be a public comment, and we could be alerted that has changed. So I think that's a great thing. So that's already been activated.
And there's also a feature in board docs where if we change the agenda, it gives me it will then ask me a question. Do you want everyone to receive notice of this change? And so if we upload comments into there, I will say yes, so that you all get a notification that there's been a change as well.
Okay.
That way, you'll know. Can I read the language that I proposed that based on this discussion?
Yes, please.
Okay, any comments received will be immediately placed in the board meeting materials. To ensure that the comments are available publicly in the materials, they must be received 24 hours in advance of the meeting.
Okay.
Does that meet the committee's recommendation?
I like that.
Me
I'm
too.
good with that.
Okay. Any other comments?
Before we move on the very first page under H, I think we need to add the word chair, the very last, committee chair.
First page. I'm sorry, Todd, I was looking for page 1. Can you tell me what you want again?
It is on the very first page under the letter H, like horse. Add the word chair at the very end, committee chair.
Oh, committee chair, got you. Yes. Absolutely. Any other comments or suggestions for remote participation in board meetings?
I'm sorry, I'm adding one more sentence.
Okay.
And I'm just going to say that any comments received after that time will be held to the next meeting.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay. Now this is listed under first review, and we fast tracked this last time. So do we want this for second review or first review, or how do we want to handle this so that we are, you know, ready for May?
Yeah, I would recommend you fast track it again like you did the last meeting.
Rather than just move it to second. Yeah, because it's not really a second review. Okay. Okay, so you know what? Let's I think I need to let's go ahead and entertain a motion to send A through E, or A through D to the full board in May for first review and fast track policy for remote participation in board meetings. I would like to have a motion for that to send to the May meeting for first review. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And let's go ahead and take care of policy 4-13 for second review to send to the full board at the May meeting for second review.
I thought we did that already. 4-13?
Yeah, did we vote on that?
We did.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Okay, so that brings us to administrative guidelines for review, policy 4-3, student discipline, code of conduct, student conduct.
Yes, ma'am, this is part of your.
Well, just, can we go back for a second? On the remote participation, we also had the best practices with Zoom. Did anyone have anything on that, or are we attaching that as an administrative guideline, or how are we doing that?
That was an administrative guideline that Jay had sent out to staff, I guess, last month. But I didn't think the full board had seen it, so I had asked for it to be attached. I definitely think this needs to be a district policy. Has everyone had a chance to look over what Jay sent to staff? I thought it was really great.
Yeah, I think it should be an administrative
Adopted.
guideline or adopted or whatever.
Let's adopt it as a policy. I agree, because I don't think this should be a recommendation. I think this needs to be a hard and fast policy for all teachers, all staff, every Union County Public Schools employee and board member. Oh, Michelle, you're on mute.
But do we want it to be a formal policy since it's a specific medium, or should we make it as an administrative guideline and attach it to this policy? And I can attach it to other policies that deal with remote communication and those things, like I think we have one with staff student relations that talk about, those kinds of things. We can attach it to all of those, or reference those with it as well, and make it a guideline that is attached to all of them.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I would be okay with it being attached to all of those as an administrative guideline. And that,
We'll identify those and put it as there, attach it that way.
and that is clear this is not a recommendation. But I thought Jay did really, really great putting this together, and because I know I continue to see on social media, I think I even saw a comment yesterday on Union County Public Schools. It may have been Facebook. Someone had commented from another district that I think they were surprised we were using Zoom because of, all of these, safety problems. But after talking to Jay, I feel very confident that if our staff and our board members are using what's in these administrative guidelines that are attached here, we should not have safety issues that would cause any teacher or any student a problem, as long as they follow these steps that Jay has put together. I think he has done a great job in protecting our school district, as long as they do what is in this document. Any comments or questions, now that we're kind of transitioning to Zoom? I hope everyone.
I would like to thank Jay and his team. I think he's done a great job, both with rolling out the Outlook and the Zoom. I know I had my computer in for some repair a couple of weeks ago, and I think he said he had 300 tickets in front of mine. So those guys are working hard.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Hinetail, for reminding us to talk about Zoom. So I will entertain a motion to take this to the May meeting for first review.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So do we need to approve all the policies for first review now?
I thought that's what we just did.
Oh, all of them, okay.
Okay. So that takes us back to administrative guidelines for 4-3, student discipline, code of student conduct.
Yes, this we review basically annually. And given that things need to go to print, I wanted to make sure this came before you, at least for the first time today. We made some changes after the beginning of the school year last year regarding vapes, and you may notice that those are still in red because they were made after the big review. I wanted to make sure you still saw that those were there. This has been with staff since the end of March for feedback. And so any feedback I have received has been incorporated into this draft. And so I wanted to bring it.
I have a question. On, I don't know what page, page 10 of 23, it says at the top, under 7, electronic devices. The notes we talk about elementary and middle being the same and high school being different. Is that the way we're going? I guess there are some schools that don't even allow them at middle school, that they're not allowed to even possess them at school. And I think elementaries, there's a lot of them that don't let them. So it's just our administrative guidelines, and the schools can make stricter things, or
Kathy, which page?
I'm on 10 of 23, mine says, and it's under 7 electronic devices. So it's about smartwatches and smartphones.
Yeah, we have always kept elementary and middle together and high school separate. That's just been the way it's been for the last, I guess, significant period of time. I did reach out to see if folks still wanted to keep it that way. And I've gotten no, and it was saying no. All schools should be following these guidelines. They should not.
We took out possess and added display. So now we're saying that we're allowing elementary students to bring phones to school as long as they don't have them out.
Yeah, we've had a lot of schools where students are wearing Apple Watches and those things in elementary. And so the decision of the principals and school performance last year was that they weren't going to fight that battle.
Okay.
And they just can't kind of be using and all of those things. Now, the school should be following these guidelines and not have a different rule than what the superintendent and the board has adopted as administrative guidelines.
Okay. And then,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Regarding elementary, I wasn't particularly happy to see that it would be returned to the student at the end of the day. It just my personal opinion. I think it in the event the child loses it between the end of the day, after school, childcare, the bus. I feel like the parent should have to come to the school to pick it up for elementary.
Yeah, we had that discussion, and the only concern was that in some of our schools, parents don't have the ability to come to the school. There's a requirement that the parent be notified, but a parent may not be, due to their work schedule or et cetera, able to actually get there. And so we would prefer that staff not hold on to these things for an extended period of time, because there's always the risk of damage and loss. We did discuss that though, and I think that's a legitimate concern. The folks, especially in the Title I schools, were concerned about not being able to get a parent in there, and just making sure they were notified that there was a problem, that their student had violated the rule, would kind of address that. But we can do whatever y'all want.
Okay. So with that being said, can we have like an email documentation, just so that we have something in writing that the parent would have to email? I don't know. I just don't want any staff member to be accused of not returning it, and then it winds up being lost, broken, stolen, and then it becomes a he said, she said scenario, that it was our fault when it might have happened at after school or something. Is there any way that maybe we could get an email from the parent saying they acknowledge that they agree for us to return it to the child? Or
The parent knows, well, is aware of the student taking the device to school, right? Correct?
And I guess it says they're being notified if it's been confiscated, but I just don't want an employee to be blamed for something after it's returned, or accused of not returning it. They say, yes, we did return it. But I guess there's a video camera in the front office too that would document that it was handed back to the student. Would that be documentation? You're muted.
I'm sorry. And we also have that parents understand, because that it will be confiscated if their child violates this, because they all have to sign that they've received the code of conduct in the beginning of the year. So I think that if their child takes it, they do know in the beginning of the year that there's the potential for it being taken. And then once it's taken, we then notify them that it's been taken and returned to their child through, because it does say, we did add the and notify parent, so that we were ensured that there was a loop in that, so there wasn't, something didn't get missed. But I do, which is why I don't want staff to hold on to them for any extended period of time, because there's always the risk of my iPhone screen wasn't cracked before and now it is, or all those kinds of things can happen the longer it's in our possession.
Maybe just making sure that that they return it in the presence of a video camera in the front office, and that the student acknowledges that that is their belonging. And I would assume that if the screen was cracked, the student would say that when it's returned to them. And if they leave with the device, then it would be safe to assume there was no damage.
Yeah, we'll work with the principals to put a protocol in place.
Yeah. But I think if it's on camera, that would be sufficient, that it was returned to the student. Okay.
I saw a lot of other changes that were really good. It's good to see that everybody's paying attention on appeals that we get and stuff like that. I see a lot of that stuff changed in here, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And every day we learn something new, and it was nice to see some of that stuff in there. I learned lots of stuff, so. But thank you for making those changes, because a lot of stuff that we've seen over the last 8 months, I see showing up with a little more words around it to get us where we need to be. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Collaboration, so thank you.
Did Jared work with you on this? Has he looked over all of this?
He's reviewed it. Yeah, he reviewed the draft and gave it a thumbs up.
Wonderful. I mean, because it did coincide with so much hearings and things that we do here. I was thinking that maybe Jared had worked with you on this.
Okay. So I move that we send this to the full board for review.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, action items to be taken to the full board for second review will be 4-13 school assignment. For first review will be professional and staff development, which is a new policy. 3-5 drug-free workplace. 4-5 immunization and health requirements for school admission, and policy 5-8 parent involvement. And we are going to fast track policy for remote participation in board meetings. And we're going to provide code of student conduct administrative guidelines for the board's review at the May meeting. Did I get everything?
Got it.
The only one other thing is there's an administrative guideline that goes with student assignment, and that's for review as well.
Correct. And again, we'll just mention the importance of the Zoom administrative guidelines for the entire district.
I'm sorry, those will be added as well.
Okay, perfect. Okay, if there aren't any other comments for this policy committee meeting, our next meeting will be May 27th, 2020. And unless otherwise noted, we will assume that it will be through Zoom, unless we get some good news this week out of Raleigh. So just making it, and again, that will be 9 a.m. on May 27th. Hearing no other comments from board members, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle, Dr. Houlihan.
Thank you.
Have a great day.